Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm going to be showing you guys some of my favorite pieces of art I've done recently before I jump into all the personal stories and time lapse, if that's okay. I've been drawing since I was little, but I've never really had like a focused effort on it. I'd usually be too critical to practice my skills. It's only been about the last year or so that I've chosen watercolor as my dedicated medium. My biggest goal is to get a thorough grasp on anatomy so I can begin to paint people more effectively. Right now, it's just not where I want to be. I had briefly begun to practice watercolor painting strategies using the Watercolour, which is free tutorials on Skillshare. I'll share the links below. In 2020, she provided the line art, and I just painted along with her with the tutorial. But October came around and I decided to double down to do 31 original paintings for Arttober. I ended up with 30 paintings and one line art that never got painted because I was absolutely not inspired by it at all. But still, that was an amazing accomplishment for me. I surprised myself in a lot of ways for the things that I could do. If maybe I was just a little less rigid and went out and tried different things, even if it didn't end up exactly how I wanted in the end. Most of the paintings you're seeing are from Arttober 2020, and you can see all my Arttober paintings, including my less favorite ones, on my Instagram. So I guess that's kind of what I want to talk about in this video. Failure and trying, more or less. But first, I want to show you all my spooky stickers on my palette. So my sister bought me this palette and the paints so I could make my own collection of colors. It's the first time that I'm ever using it for a painting, which is like super long overdue because it was a Christmas present. Yeah, I regret not planning the colors out a little bit better. I got too excited and just kind of wung it. If I ever redo it, I'll definitely take the time to add a little bit more purposeful variety, I guess you'd say. Anywho, failure. Oh, I hate failure. I always have, really, as far as I can remember, my earliest memories in school. And though I went through some events in conditioning, I guess, to reinforce that, eventually I tied accomplishments to my self-worth, which has been one of the biggest things that I'm still trying to overcome. It's made things pretty difficult, hard to practice to improve different skills, hard to relax just sitting around and doing nothing, hard to give myself a break when I'm burnt out and still trying to take on more than I can handle. This attachment to accomplishments has pushed me to have all the accolades that I do today, but really at the cost of mental health. It's without a doubt a double-edged sword, and it's really only after I graduated college that I could step back and give myself a little bit of slack because there wasn't a deadline after deadline being shoved down my throat. I was able to kind of rest a little bit. And I logically know messing up is part of the learning process, if not one of the most important parts. But I take each mess up so personally, it's shelved a bunch of projects and art pieces in my past. So I'd bounce from idea to idea and medium to medium, and I ended up never really improving any of my skills, but still craving that creative outlet. Whenever I hit a wall where I'd have to practice to get better, I'd essentially give up and transition to something else and waste more money and time on something I would never touch again. My outlets ended up making me feel bad about myself instead of being a release, and at times I felt really cornered in that situation. Like, how could I ever be as good as the artists that I admire if I couldn't even stick with a medium? How could I ever gain the skills to paint the subjects I really want to if I shoved the pencil away after messing up a proportion? How could I move forward if every time I mess up, I just left? I didn't really have any answers, and I don't really know if I have any answers now. If I wasn't good at something, art or otherwise, that meant I wasn't a useful person, and that was pretty much that. That was, and sometimes is, my black and white thinking, and I'm fully conscious of it, but that doesn't always help me combat it. So what do? Sometimes I end up taking a break, months at a time, like between Arttober 2020 and when I uploaded my first video. That was about 7 months. That piece of art was the first thing I had created in 7 months. Sometimes I get in the groove of a schedule, And that works for quite a bit until I start being critical again. That's kind of the sweet spot I'm in right now. I have a lot of things planned. I'm taking small steps and I feel like I'm accomplishing things slowly. So it's a little bit easier not to get frustrated. And sometimes I'd end up just, skipping to a different form of art. But I really want to try to put a stop to that. I really do want to try and improve on my watercolor. I could tell you to keep trying and trying. Yeah, like whatever. But I don't find that type of positivity useful. I find realistic, goal-oriented positivity useful. Like, yeah, go ahead and take a break. Maybe it'll be for a few months, but one day you're going to wake up and decide you have the energy to create again. And if you're too impatient for that day, grab a sticky note or a piece of paper and just make a doodle. Some lines, some dots, it literally doesn't matter. Write a poem, do something else creative so you're not constantly beating yourself up for not doing what you think you should be doing. The biggest thing I've learned is small steps. Big, drastic changes take very small steps over months, over years. Small steps let you create habits that are sustainable over time. It'd be awesome if you could practice art every day, but is that realistic for you? Is that going to do more harm than good for you? If it feels like too much, smack down Thursday for your art day, or Saturday, or whatever. You don't have to make a finished piece. It doesn't have to be the greatest thing you've ever created. It just has to be created. And next week on Thursday or Saturday, you're going to do it again until 2 days a week is enjoyable. Maybe it'll always be once a week. Who knows? But even once a year is better than never creating again. Give yourself space to be tired and sad, if that's what you feel. Forgive yourself for not meeting your own self-imposed expectations. So I know my story. I know it well. But I know yours could be so much different. And I'd love to hear about it in the comments below. What is your relationship with failure, with practicing and creating? How do you deal with it? What can I do to help you? And don't ask me why I picked this as a painting idea. I know it's weird. I kind of like it. I kind of don't like it. I'm getting back into the swing of things. I don't know what I'm doing. But I want to start doing this thing at the end of all my time lapses where I pick something that really went right or that I liked for me and then something that I could improve on. So the thing that I most enjoyed about doing this painting was seeing the progression in how I'm doing some of my gradients. They're not like super perfect yet, but they're way better than they used to be. The transitions are a lot smoother. One thing that I want to improve on is painting with a little more purpose. I think the ground part at the bottom took like way too long. Halfway through, I decided to break it up into chunks when that wasn't the original plan, which I liked. It was bold and I was a little nervous about doing it, but it did extend the length of the painting and I was kind of hoping for the best at some point. I was like, I don't know if this is gonna work. So those my pros and cons for this painting. And don't be shy about sharing yours in the comments below. I'm definitely here to learn and I'm always happy to hear what you guys have to say. I hope you all have an amazing day. Talk soon.